Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're totally bypassing all that generic health marketing you see in the grocery store aisles, and we're diving straight into the actual science and health value of green tea. We're going to explore the rigorous molecular pharmacology and the botany behind a beverage that's literally shaped cultures for over 1,000 years. So let's kick things off with a pretty foundational question. What's actually happening inside the cells of the Camellia sinensis leaf that makes it such a biological powerhouse? Well, as you'll see, the answer really boils down to the deliberate, careful manipulation of its chemistry. To really grasp this, we're going to follow a quick 6-step journey. We'll look at the chemistry of green tea, shading and phytochemistry, the power of ECGC, L-theanine and brainwaves, toxicology and drug interactions, and finally, brewing for maximum benefit.
All right, part 1, the chemistry of green tea.
Did you know all true tea comes from the exact same plant? It's true, but green tea is uniquely defined by a fascinating process called enzymatic arrest. It's often called a kill-green process, and it's absolutely crucial. It's the defining scientific characteristic of green tea. Producers apply heat immediately after harvesting to deactivate polyphenol oxidases. By doing this, they're completely stopping oxidation. It's literally just like squeezing lemon juice on a sliced apple so it doesn't turn brown. It locks the leaf right there in its vibrant, unoxidized green state. And you know what's wild? This initial choice of how to apply that heat radically alters the final molecular profile of the tea. Chinese producers traditionally use dry heat, literally pan-firing the leaves at temperatures up to 200 degrees Celsius. This brings out these complex, nutty, toasted flavors. But Japanese producers, they typically use steam, and that steam preserves a much fresher, grassier, and more vegetal chemical profile.
Now, what happens when this highly precise thermal process goes awry? Well, if a producer applies excessive heat during fixation, it absolutely destroys the chlorophyll. You end up with leaves that are oxidized, yellow, and completely limp. Honestly, it's a lot like overcooked broccoli, and it totally ruins the chemical integrity of the batch.
Moving on to section 2, shading and phytochemistry. Over in Japan, farmers use a brilliant technique called shaded cultivation. By intentionally throwing screens over the tea bushes, they block roughly 90 to 98% of the sunlight for several weeks right before harvest. Now, why do this? They're intentionally stressing the plant out, starving it of light. And the result? It triggers this massive surge in chlorophyll production and completely rewires the amino acid balance inside the plant's cells. To put that into perspective, in normal open-field cultivation for teas like sencha, sunlight naturally converts an amino acid called L-theanine into catechins. And catechins are what taste bitter and astringent. But shaded cultivation, which gives us teas like gyokuro and matcha, physically prevents this chemical reaction. By blocking the light, L-theanine levels stay significantly higher and catechin levels stay lower, while chlorophyll gets intensely concentrated. This exact botanical manipulation is what gives high-end shaded teas that highly prized savory umami flavor.
Okay, let's get into section 3, the power of EGCG.
Meet epigallicosidgalate, or thankfully EGCG for short. This is the absolute heavy lifter. EGC represents up to a whopping 80% of the total catechin content in the leaf. It's the most biologically active compound here, and it's pretty much the main reason behind green tea's massive reputation for health. But here's the crucial takeaway. ECGC isn't just some generic antioxidant. It operates on highly specific molecular pathways. Sure, it neutralizes harmful reactive oxygen species, or free radicals, but it also increases nitric oxide production, which helps your blood vessels dilate. Plus, in the brain, studies show it can actually inhibit the sticky amyloid beta fibrils associated with neurodegeneration, meaning it's actively reducing neuroinflammation and protecting your neurons. Pretty amazing, right?
Which leads us perfectly into section 4, L-theanine and brainwaves. So let's address the elephant in the room, caffeine. A standard 8-ounce cup of green tea has about 25 to 50 milligrams of caffeine. Compare that to coffee, which packs anywhere from 95 to 200 milligrams in the same cup. But wait, while green tea obviously has way less caffeine, it provides a totally different type of energy. It is not just a weaker cup of coffee, it's functionally unique.
And here is why. L-theanine. This amino acid actually crosses your blood-brain barrier and physically promotes the production of alpha brain waves. And alpha waves are the ones associated with a state of relaxed focus. So it actively smooths out all those jittery, anxious edges you normally get from caffeine. Let's break down the pharmacology of this synergy. You've got caffeine blocking your adenosine receptors, which keeps you from feeling sleepy. But simultaneously, you have L-theanine modulating your GABA levels and promoting those alpha waves to keep you calm. It's exactly this precise molecular synergy between adenosine receptor antagonism and GABA modulation that makes green tea the ultimate cognitive tool. You get calm alertness completely without the crash. Now, we have to talk about the flip side in Section 5, toxicology and drug interactions. Yep, it's not all sunshine. Consuming green tea during or right after a meal can cause a massive 60 to 70% drop in non-heme iron absorption. Why? Because the tannins in the tea have an incredibly strong affinity for iron. They bind directly to the minerals right there in your gut, forming complexes that your body simply cannot absorb. Furthermore, while traditionally brewed tea is incredibly safe, taking high-dose green tea extract supplements on an empty stomach is highly problematic. In fact, it's linked to hepatotoxicity, which is liver cell death. In high concentrated doses, EGCG acts as a pro-oxidant, causing serious mitochondrial stress. So more is definitely not always better. And this highlights the very real danger of pharmacokinetic interactions. Green tea actively inhibits specific intestinal transport pathways. For example, it can cause an 85% reduction in the absorption of beta blockers like nadolol. On the flip side, it can cause a twofold increase in drug levels for immunosuppressants like tacrolimus. And with anticoagulants like warfarin, there's a risk of blood clots due to the vitamin K in the tea. Basically, if you are on specific medications, this botanical powerhouse demands real medical respect.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, brewing for maximum benefit.
Okay, the absolute #1 mistake people make at home, using boiling water. Because green tea is unoxidized and structurally super delicate, hitting it with boiling water violently overextracts those astringent catechins. It completely destroys the natural sweetness and delicate amino acids we just spent all this time talking about, leaving you with a bitter, flat cup. So, here is the molecularly sound way to brew. Step 1. Cool your boiled water down slightly, somewhere between 160 and 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Step 2. Measure your leaves and please avoid stale tea that's past 12 months old. Step 3. Steep it strictly for just 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the variety. And Step 4. Separate the leaves from the liquor immediately. By strictly following these constraints, you extract the L-theanine and EGCG perfectly, while leaving all those bitter tannins behind. We've really covered some ground today, from the shaded botanical fields of Japan to the cellular pharmacology of your brain and liver. The true science and health value of green tea is vast, complex, and honestly just incredibly fascinating. So I leave you with this thought to ponder the next time you put the kettle on. How will you change your daily tea ritual now that you truly understand the molecular science in your cup? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.